and welcome to the weekly reminders. My name is Lauren Hall and a program coordinator with reMIND. I hope that you are doing well and that you're enjoying your week. It's been a beautiful week thus far. Today's topic is discussing sadness versus depression. It's common to go through patches of feeling sad or feeling blue, and perhaps when the world seems dull and uncertain, especially during these times, it can be hard to figure out exactly how you're feeling, whether it's a loss of a job, loss of a loved one, being alone, missing family and friends. I know I can relate to that. Or for some of the 2020 graduates, missing out on prom and graduation. We've all experienced it being sadness or depression. Depression and sadness are often viewed as the same thing. Many of us use the words interchangeably. It's part of our culture in which we casually say, "I'm so depressed," but for most of us, that actually means, "I'm sad." Recognizing the difference between the two is very important in improving our well-being and our awareness. Depression is a common and at times overused word. So much of our conversations, it can mean anything from a bad mood to a chronic condition requiring hospitalization and everything in between. Part of the confusion between sadness and depression is that sadness is the most recognizable symptom of depression. Our confusion, however, can lead us to neglect a serious condition that requires treatment. The distinction is critical because if we or our loved ones are depressed, we have to make sure that we are providing them with the right treatment that they need to in order to be able to cope with that emotion. The distinction is important for long-term mental health, physical health, and longevity. When we think about depression as the same as sadness, we tend to minimize the illness, and we don't often realize how many other debilitating symptoms depression creates. So, where do we draw the line between sadness and depression? What is sadness? What is depression? What are some symptoms of depression? Well, sadness is a normal human emotion, just like grief, anxiety, feeling happy, feeling frustrated. It's a feeling of sorrow and unhappiness. Sadness is usually triggered by a difficult or hurtful or challenging or disappointing event, experience, or situation. And this also means that we tend to feel sad about something, right? This also means that when that something changes or when our emotional hurt fades, and when we've adjusted and gotten over the loss or disappointment, our sadness usually remits. A person can usually find relief from crying, venting, or talking it out. Sadness usually passes with time. So the difference in sadness and depression is that depression often lasts a little bit longer. So one of the things that I think is important in understanding the difference between sadness and depression is the way that we interpret it or perceive it. Because oftentimes, like I said, sadness is a normal emotion, whereas depression, it can sometimes be described as feeling as though you're drowning when you're able to see everybody else breathing, or feeling as though you're colorblind when people are constantly telling you the world is full of color. So the feeling of depression can really be substantially different from sadness. According to the World Health Organization, depression is one of the most common mental health mental health disorders, and globally, more than 264 million people of all ages suffer from depression. That is alarming. Depression is an abnormal emotional state, a mental illness that affects our thinking, our emotions, our perceptions, and our behaviors. When we're depressed, we often feel sad about everything. Depression does not necessarily require a difficult event or situation or loss or change in circumstances. So depression doesn't always have to have a triggering event. In fact, it often occurs in the absence of any such triggers. Sometimes we can present and have a great life, but internally we are struggling, we're suffering. Depression colors all aspects of lives, making everything less enjoyable, less interesting, less important, less lovable, less worthwhile. Depression snaps our energy and motivation, our ability to experience joy, pleasure, satisfaction, and connection. You're more impatient, quicker to anger, get frustrated, quicker to break down, and it takes a lot longer to bounce back from everything. So the difference between sadness and depression really comes down to relating to the number of symptoms experienced, how intense the mood is, how long the mood lasts, and the impact the mood has on the person's ability to function in various areas of their lives. So, some of the differences. Sadness is only temporary. Depression usually requires assistance and medication or support and can be chronic in nature. Sadness is often connected to a life change, sometimes negative, but depression can rear its ugly head whenever it wants. Sadness is usually without feelings of suicide, whereas depression can be accompanied by suicide ideations. Sadness affects a person's ability to take care of themselves less, whereas depression and the impact on energy, sleep, appetite, and general well-being is dramatically altered. All right, so here are some symptoms to be able to understand how it feels to have depression or what depression looks like. So some of the symptoms are a depressed or irritable mood most of the time, a loss or displeasure in interests or activities, significant changes in weight or appetite, disturbances in falling asleep or sleeping too much, feeling slowed down in your movement or restless most of the days, feeling tired, sluggish, low energy, feeling unworthy or worthless or guilty, experiencing problems with thinking, focusing, concentrating, and even having thoughts of dying or suicide. Again, sadness and depression are not the same thing. One is a normal response through tough times, such as the tough times that we are experiencing now. I know for me, just feeling a sense of sadness with being away from family and friends, whereas depression is more of a serious mental illness, right? It's something that lasts a long time. So sadness is only temporary. So being able to recognize the difference between sadness and depression is essential, whether it's for you or a loved one, so that you're able to assist that loved one, or even be able to have awareness about how you feel and the things that are available to you if you need assistance or treatment. So here are some available resources if you or someone you know is experiencing a crisis or at risk of suicide or harming themselves. Help is available. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 1-800-273-TALK. For residents of Texas, call 833-986-1919 to speak with a mental health professional, or 211 for other services. Also, if you have some hesitation about speaking with someone, there is a crisis text line that is a free resource that is available 24/7, specifically for Texas residents. Text TX to 741-741. Once again, for the crisis text line, text TX 741-741. So once again, being able to differentiate between sadness and depression. Let me know what your thoughts are about today's series. Thank you for tuning in with me. Stay safe and stay connected. Please join us next Thursday as we discuss conquering loneliness during this time. Also, make sure that you look us up on our website, remindsupport.org, for additional resources. And also, please sign up and join our online support groups. They are very beneficial, especially during these times where you can feel supported and not feel alone. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. I will see you next Thursday. Thank you.